Hey, it's Bob. We're going to do a little fretting on a CBG neck today just to show how simple it is. I got a few things here. I've got the CBG neck, full 24 frets. Got fret wire here, got a hammer, got a small caul, a short piece of hardwood that I use to tap the fret wire in with, and a couple of different types of nippers. Let me see if I can focus these up close. These are your generic buy at Home Depot kind of nippers. See if we can get that focused in. Now you can see they've got kind of a chisel point to them where they cut, so that they'll never actually cut perfectly flush with the fretboard. So a little piece of the fret will be sticking out. That means a little bit more work dressing the frets, but entirely serviceable. The ones I'll actually be using though are these from StewMag that are made for this job. You can see there's no chisel point on the end here. It's a flush cut, so you can cut those fret wires very close to the edge of the fretboard. The downside is you can also pretty easily cut the fretboard, so you have to be a little bit careful with it like that. So here we go. We'll do some fretting. I'll fast forward. I'll just do a few here and we'll fast forward to the end and we'll start doing some dressing. So we take the fret wire, push it down into the slot that's already cut, hold it in place and tap it with the hammer. Quick and simple. You don't want to hit it too hard, just gentle nudges and nip it off. Move on to the next one. Get it into place. Make sure you're getting somewhere flush near that outside edge. Tap it. Nip it off. And keep moving on down through the process. You can see this is fairly quick. Again, not tapping too hard. I'm sort of sliding the caul back and forth and moving the hammer back and forth, so I'm sure I'm getting a pretty even pressure on top of the frets. And then later as we go back through, if some of them look like they're not pushed down all the way through, we can use a clamp to push them down with some gentle pressure to get them into place. So you can see here's where we are. Nice and simple. Okay, here we are just a few minutes later. We're fully fretted. So now what we need to do is dress the ends of the frets so when we play the guitar we don't bleed. Primarily what I use is a standard bastard file. Just a few dollars at your typical hardware store. It's fairly rough on one side and fine on the other. We're only going to use the fine edge. So this is fairly simple and fairly quick. I'll just show some basic technique here, finish it up off camera, and then we'll jump into the next file for dressing up the ends. So again, using the smooth side, the first thing we want to do is just go flush along the edge on both sides to make sure that any frets sticking out, that we've filed them down smooth with the edge. That's especially important if we've used the generic nippers that have the chisel point, which leaves a little bit of edge sticking out. But even the guitar makers, the fret pliers, can often leave little bits that need to be filed down. So it's very simple. Don't worry about marring up the fretboard or the neck unless you just get totally carried away. It's not going to happen. The file will file metal away, but on wood it pretty much just glides over. And you can feel it in the file, and you can hear it once you've done it a few times. You can hear the difference of when you've gotten down the fret wire filed down flush with the wood, and the file is now just running over wood. You can hear and feel a difference, so you won't go too far. So it's very simple. Up and down. Up high on the neck where the frets are close together, you need to do a little bit more filing. You can go a little faster and longer strokes as you get up where the frets are farther apart. So this is where I've used the StewMag pliers. They're already fairly flush. I don't need to do a whole lot there. The next step is then go down at an angle. So we were going at right angles to the fretboard there, getting everything flush with the edge. Now I'm going to tilt this down at maybe a 30-degree angle or so and just run up and down the fretboard. I'll do it mostly down here so we can show the camera, then I'll go off camera and finish it up. I also kind of roll the file a little bit as I get towards the end so I can get a make sure that there's no sharp razor edges that I'm creating, because that's what you do with a file. You create knife edges. Let's see if we can get a look at that. Yeah, it's hard to tell with the camera. You can see I'm getting a little bit of an angle there on the frets. Now I'll do that all the way down this side and all the way down this side. Then I'll turn the camera back on and we'll do the final dressing. Alright, we're back. We're just finishing up. Got them pretty well angled all the way up and down the neck. Hopefully we can see that in there in the camera. So that's been, from the start of fretting to getting to this point, I've taken maybe 10 minutes or so. Pretty quick and pretty simple. So the final step here in dressing out these frets is to clean up the edges. You can see where I don't know if we can see, but where we've been filing at an angle, the edges can be a little bit sharp because, again, that's what a file does. You create knife edges with a file. So there's this final little piece. This is a fret end dressing file. I don't know if we can see the cross section on this thing, but it's basically a rectangular file. Let's try and focus this guy. Maybe that's as good as we can get. It's a rectangular file, but one side has been rounded over and is smooth, so that when you use that rounded over side on a fret, we'll come along on the edge of it and just run it along the fretboard and catch the edge where it was sharp on both sides. That rounded piece rides on the fretboard, and now you're not going to mar the fretboard if you end up pushing too hard. Now this is an official fret dressing end file. I think I got this from StuMac. It was ridiculously expensive. You can make one of these fairly simple. If you go to a hardware store, you buy a needle file set. One of the needle files will be a rectangular file just like this. So then you just take one edge, take it over to your grinding wheel, and you round it over. Then use one of the other files to file it smooth. So now you have a smooth edge. That way you end up spending maybe $5 as opposed to the whatever ridiculous amount I spent on this one from StuMac. But they are a fantastic tool once you get them all set up. So again, just run along the edge, just a few strokes on each side, kind of rounding the file along that sharp edge that we created with the bastard file. Sometimes a little bit down on the edge, and just run your finger over and as if you were playing, to feel if there's any sharpness anywhere, and use that file to make sure you knock down any sharpness in the metal of the fret. And then the final step after we finished up with this end dressing, you guys are working out pretty nicely. After we finished up this end dressing, is just run along the edge with some wet dry sandpaper. I usually hit it with about 1,000 grit. Get some good hard pressure on the edges, go up and down the edges. That will take care of any tiny little marks you may have put in the fretboard with the file, and also polish up the ends of the frets. And that's it. That's all there is to fretting. Nothing to it.